Good day. I'm here to talk to you today about the gospel reading from Matthew that is for Sunday. A while ago, I had a book called Preaching as Local Folk Art, and in it talked about how important it was to meet and greet the people within the church, the parish, and the wider community when we prepare our sermons on Sunday so that we can speak to the hearts and minds of those that we see and we visit. I've visited only a handful of you so far this week, and most of us have been wearing masks. So it has been a challenge, but a challenge that I think I can still talk to you about the anxiety that we all face in daily life. In the passage in Matthew's Gospel, it speaks about the disciples and the crowds being dismissed by Jesus going off to a place to pray by himself, and the disciples setting off in a boat over the sea. Over an amount of time, the wind and the waves start to gather and the boat begins to shake, and there is great concern with those in the boat that they're going to die or sink or drown. And that's where I want to stop us right there, because I think there's an opportunity to think in our own lives about the things that buffet us, be it the wind or the waves, the stresses and strains of daily lives, that make us to ponder and to consider anxiety and how scared we might be alone. It's at exactly that moment that Jesus comes out onto the lake. He is white looking, and the disciples are scared. They're terrified. They believe him to be a ghost. It's in our anxiety often that Jesus does come to us when we feel most vulnerable. And yet even that can feel terrifying in itself. Jesus calls out to the disciples, and Peter, being the person that he is, decides to rock the boat and get out of it, joining Jesus, but then feeling the wind and the water, and all of his tenacity seems to liquefy, and he starts to sink in his own anxiety. Jesus grasps him by the arm and then tells him that he has little faith. Why should he worry? In the end of the story, Jesus and all the disciples are back in the boat. The waters and the storm and the wind has calmed, and they all worship Jesus. There is something that has been affecting me over the last few weeks and months as I have moved from Germany to Canada. There's a little bit of anxiety in doing that, and the stresses and strains moving in the midst of a pandemic. And I was given a small cross that fits in my pocket, made of oak wood. It's a polished cross, which I think has probably become more polished now from my time of holding it. But in my prayers, when I feel that things are maybe getting a little bit overwhelming, grasping hold of Jesus, crying out, "Lord, save me," is something that has been a great comfort to me, and I hope it can be to you too. In these times, I think that it's appropriate not only just to talk to you, but also to give you something of a practical aspect to think about as you also pray, read, consider the words of Scripture this Sunday. When we think of sailing, either on lakes or in the sea, there is directional points. And as Jesus walked out to the disciples, he provided a directional point for the disciples. If you sit in your own homes or in your own gardens and you orient yourself towards the north, I'd like you just to think about the question, what can I truly rely on? What can I truly rely on? And let that seep into you and be your prayer. After a certain amount of time, turn yourself physically to the south and ask yourself the question, what deeply touches my soul with hope? What deeply touches my soul with hope? And let that sink in and meditate on that for a few minutes. After that, you turn to the west, and oriented towards the west, you ask yourself, what memories am I treasuring? What memories am I treasuring? hold that in your heart, ruminate on that in your mind, ponder it, the answers that you might receive. And then finally, you turn yourself to the east, and you ask yourself, where am I now called to invest my time, my energy, and my love? Where am I now called to invest my time, my energy, and my love? Jesus is the center of the boat for the disciples. He is that ballast for them, who gives them something to worship and to hold on to. They sailed away with smooth waters and no wind. And I think that as we, sitting in our homes or in our gardens, thinking about the north, the south, the east, and the west, those compass point prayers, that we will see that Jesus truly is our center, and all of our anxieties will vanish. Amen.